Hi, I'm Ann Coulter. Welcome to my Substack. I'm here with my favorite Democrat, Mickey Kaus, Harvard Law, New Republic, Newsweek. And he really is a Democrat on everything except immigration and only for strictly Marxist reasons. Anyway, a lot's been going on with the Democrats, and I'm so happy to have you back, Mickey.
Thank you. I can't let Scott Adams horn in on my deal here. Um, but so I'll give it a try.
Well, it turns out you're my best insider to the Democrats. You were at the Democratic National Convention, though I understand you were treated um, about the way Liz Cheney would be at a Republican National Convention.
Well, nobody had credentials really because the deadline was in April, and everybody thought the convention would be boring in April, so nobody applied. So a bunch of people did get in, and if you're John Alter, you got in, whether or not he probably applied. But my real Democratic friends got in, but I didn't have a perimeter pass. I didn't really even try. I just went to events that were outside the wall.
Which are always the best events anyway.
There's some of them are good events. Yes, I talked to a lot of people. Uh,
And those were the ones I wanted to reply. When I was at the Republican National Convention, as were you, we were staying in the same house with Peter Thiel. Um, I think you and I did the same thing, and that is went to nothing inside the convention hall other than Media Row, and only went to parties afterwards and Peter Thiel's speech and Trump's speech. That's all I saw of the convention.
uh, I, I've had fun inside the convention because even if you have just by walking around the perimeter, you meet a whole lot of people and you can find out a lot of stuff. It's a little like the great movie Metropolis, where the lead character says he doesn't like to read original literature. He likes to read the secondary literature because then he gets the author's intent and the commentary on the authors. Uh, and so if you talk to reporters, you get their reporting, but you can like without having to do the reporting, and then you get their take on their reporting. It's actually more efficient than actually going out and talking to people. But I couldn't do that because I didn't get in the convention. If I'd gotten in, I would have gotten COVID. So it's just as well. It was a huge COVID super spreader event.
Yes, and I would expect my hypochondriac friend to know that. But you did mention a couple of the events outside the convention that
Well,
I specifically wanted you to talk.
the most important one I went to, and this was actually covered in the press, was the Marshall Center's Brennan Center, sorry, the Brennan Center's uh, symposium on how they're going to take over the Supreme Court if they get the trifecta. And the key aspect of it was how arrogant most of them were, especially Sheldon Whitehouse and secondarily Jamie Raskin. But Whitehouse said if they get the trifecta, that is, if the Democrats even get a small majority in the House, Senate, and they win the presidency, they're going to move a big bill. They're going to get rid of the filibuster. And it wasn't clear if they were going to get rid of the filibuster just for this bill or in general, for judicial issues or in general for everything. Uh, but they could do either. They could do all that. And it's going to have voting rights reform. It's going to have uh, dark money reform. It's going to have, there was one other abortion reform, choice
Yeah.
reform, a national abortion law. And it's going to have Supreme Court reform, which is going to include an ethics code, obviously, 18-year limits on terms, retroactive. So
Whoa.
Thomas is history. Okay. That was part of the arrogance. They thought, oh, sure, we can just make it retroactive. The Constitution says they serve for good behavior, but 18 years, those old fogies are out of there. Uh, Only 9 years on the real Supreme Court deciding cases. After 9 years, you get shunted onto like a lower intermediate court that sort of does preliminary fact finding and original jurisdiction cases and all the crap that nobody wants to do. So people resign immediately as soon as they get assigned to that. Um, and every 2 years there's an appointment, sort of a regular 2 year thing. And
Wow.
uh, and I don't quite know. I mean, parts of it seem obviously not constitutional, like the retroactivity part. The other part you could go, oh, and the other thing is the Raskin says you're going to expand it to 13 members because there are 13 circuits, Anne, and we need a judge for every circuit. So this isn't just an arbitrary number we plucked out of the air to give a Democratic majority in the Supreme Court. It's that there are 13 circuits, and if they're one judge writing each circuit, you need 13 of them. So that seemed it was more plausible than I had hoped for. I thought they were just going to say they plucked it out of the air. But Michael Waldman, the head of the Brennan Institute, warned against unintended consequences, by which I think he means, what if Donald Trump gets 4 of these appointments and then their history?
That's what I was thinking. I hope you got a copy of this document, so if the reverse happens, we can do it.
Right, and it just seems like a bad idea, but they are now into the Tim Walz model, which is you get a small majority, you ram your whole agenda through, even if it's like one vote.
Yes. Well, the Democrats always do this, and to my annoyance, Republicans never, ever, ever do. I mean, the history of government in the United States is a ratchet. Democrats barely get House, Senate, presidency, as with Obamacare. That stolen seat by Al Franken and Scott Brown. Remember, he voted against it. They had to pull all those shenanigans to get Obamacare through. They nationalized healthcare. Republicans can actually have pretty solid majorities, and all we get for 2 or 4 years is nothing bad will happen. We won't roll anything back. It's always a ratchet, just more and more big government, big government. Actually, the only thing I think we have ever rolled back just because of its success are Reagan's tax cuts. And henceforth, which is why it's stupid for Republicans to keep running on tax cuts. Yeah, tax cuts are great. More tax cuts are better. But the difference now is like the difference between 33% under a Republican and 39% under a Democrat. It was a lot bigger when Reagan came in and slashed taxes.
That's true, but only of the modern politics. FDR had gigantic majorities, like 71 to 70 to 30s, 80 to 20 in the Senate.
Yeah, and he wrecked the country. You should be happy with that.
but he didn't do it on a razor thin majority. He did it on a huge majority.
No, I'm saying it could be. I'm not saying you never have big majorities. It could be razor thin.
Right.
But Democrats, they get in, they get stuff done. Oh my gosh, Republicans do not. They just don't pass anything to make things worse. Yay. I wanted to ask you, voting rights reform? What on earth?
I assume
more than white people. You know that as a percentage? Whose vote is being suppressed? My vote's being suppressed. Whose vote is being suppressed? What else can we do? Hand deliver ballots to every minority in the country?
Yes. This would, I assume, enshrine all the COVID era changes and require, mass mail-in ballots, and the election never ends. As soon as one ends, they start the voting for the next one. And all sorts of sort of loose laws that the Democrats may come to regret, because in Pennsylvania, for example, where Shapiro pushed through a motor voter law that it's responsible, according to Ryan Girdusky, for increasing Republican registration, because the people that have never registered are the rural whites who would vote for Trump if they ever got it together to vote. And now they're registered, so maybe they'll go to vote. And it's going to hurt the Democrats. So I would think that it's all naked partisan political interest. As soon as the tide turns against the Democrats, they'll drop this voting rights stuff, which might happen.
And what was the second one before we get to abortion? It was voting rights.
Some sort of dark money reform. I don't know what it is.
I don't think they can do that. I mean, the dark money is, that's the Citizens United case, which I so love. It's become like Project 2025. It's just one of these things. Democrats have no idea what that means, what it does. So unions can spend unlimited amounts, but they're saying a corporation can't contribute to a PAC. I mean, that's a First Amendment issue. It isn't dark. It's no darker than the unions or all the shenanigans by George Soros.
I
But
think
wow.
I think it's dark in that you don't know who the contributors are. Isn't that right? There's a
For the PACs, though, right?
I think there's one where you don't know, and there's one where you do know. And
Right,
the
the
dark stuff
individual.
is
Well, you should know this. You ran against Barbara Boxer.
I I complied with all the laws. That was my big mistake.
You can watch complete episodes of Unsafe with Ann Coulter by subscribing to anncoulter.substack.com. That's anncoulter.substack.com. You can also listen to complete episodes for free at Ricochet.com. Choose Unsafe from the pull-down menu at the top of the page. That's Ricochet.com, your home for civil center right conversation on the web.